Hello, I'm going to take you through an example of creating an HMI display using data from the PLC. But to begin with, I've created a program, and I'm using some tags that start with HMI, and this is basically for simulation. And if I go to my program tags, you'll see that there are many tags created here. Some of them start with HMI, those are for simulation. And when you actually run the real HMI, you want to use the normal tags. So, for example, digital signals, ball valve closed and open, some of the analog signals for level and pressure. And right now, those are showing showing a high value because the device is open circuit. So I have to make sure that this program is running. So I'm going to download the program. Okay, so I want to set the project path to this controller, and I'm on station number 4. So set project path, and now I should be able to download this program. And I need to be able to have this program running because I need the data from this program. And I may go back here once in a while, so yes. Okay, that's step number 1. This program is running. The next step is to actually run the HMI software. So go down to Start, and it's under a directory called Rockwell Software, and under a subdirectory called Factory Talk View, and run this program. So this is the initial screen that you get, and we're going to create a new program. I'm going to call it HMI1, and you can use whatever name you want here. And it will open up an Explorer window. This takes just a few seconds. While it's doing that, I want to take you through the process of creating a couple of icons on the screen, a horizontal slider, and a bar graph. So sometimes if you don't actually see the screen there, you might have to scroll up or down here, or click on Explorer window. Okay, this is the important one that you want to see. So I think I got that by clicking View and Explorer window. All right, there's a couple of things that you have to configure before you start to create the HMI. The first one is the project settings. And that's because I want to tell the system what size I want this HMI screen to be set for. So down here we want 1024 by 768. And turn this off before you select OK. And so that this really sets the size of the screen that I want to work with when I'm creating the HMI. The second and very important step here is to set up the communications between the HMI display and the software that we're running on the PLC. So to do that, click on RS Links Enterprise, Communication Setup, and we're going to create a new configuration. So it opens this window down here, and the first thing to do is to expand on each of these things till we see the actual controller. So if our hardware is correct, this is the controller. And now I'm going to add a shortcut, because when we use tags in the HMI, it needs to connect to the real hardware. And it does that with a shortcut, so I don't have to go here every time. So I'm going to click Add, and I'm going to call it lab7. Okay. But what I need to do next is to make sure I've highlighted the controller, and then I do apply. It's just notifying me that the old one was nothing, the new one is this. Okay. The next thing to also do is to copy this configuration to the runtime target, which will be our PLC. So copy design to runtime. Make sure this is highlighted. yes. And what you'll notice is the design, what we're working with here, and the runtime will both have the same configuration. Back to here. And the other thing you have to do is make sure down here that you do select OK. Otherwise, it will not give you the correct information when you're creating the HMI. So make sure those are saved. OK. Okay, so that step's done. Now we're going to create the display. So back up to here, go to display, and we're going to create a new one. So right click on displays, new, and I'm just going to call this display 1. You can actually save the name until you've put something into the box. So I'm going to start off with something very, very simple, where I'm going to create a push button and then have a rectangle with its properties changed so that it actually is an animated graphic. So these are all the tools I have to work with over here. Let me point out a few that are important. So right now my display is stopped. When I want to test it, I click on Run. I'm going to be using this rectangle. I'm going to be using a momentary push button. Another tool is a numerical display. I do use that sometimes. Anything else? The bar graph I'm going to use today. You can use a gauge and a scale. Okay, so those are all the things I'm going to be using. So I'm going to start off with a push button, and this is called a maintained push button. So when you press it down once, it'll give you one value. Press it again, it'll give you the opposite value. So these are digital. So click on it, bring it into the working page. I'm going to size it. And now here are some things that you can set. This is the border width, the back style. And I'm going to turn audio off because I don't want it beeping every time I press. All right. And these are the states. So you have state 0. Let's say I want state 0 to have its back color as gray. Okay, gray will be off. State 1, its back color will be green when it's on. And you can put a caption here. So for example, when it's on, I want it to say on. Okay, and the caption back color, well, the caption color I can change right here, but I'm not going to right now. So click apply. Okay, maybe that color is not great, so I want to make the caption color black. And apply. That makes a little bit more sense. The off color, and I'm going to get it to say off, and it's going to be gray is the back color. So caption color, let's make it red. Apply. Okay, the next step, and this is an important step, is that I want to be able to control information that's in my program, and I have to connect it to this particular device. So the properties of this device have to be given a connection. So that connection is actually going to be a tag. So I click on connections, and this tells me that the value can go to the tag or from the tag. And over here is where I select the tag. So click on tag, and I have to do refresh all folders first, since this is the first time I'm using it. So that takes a few seconds. But that'll make sure it's connecting to that lab7 that I created. So I click on lab7 and go to where it says online. And this is my actual program down here. Okay, so these are all the tags in my program. I can scroll back and forth. And it allows me to select any of these tags. And you have to select them appropriately. If it's a digital device that you're changing, it's going to be a digital tag. So I'm going to select, I've got a simulated signal here called float switch S111. So I'm going to select that. Okay, and once I've done that, click apply and OK. So if I want to test it, I click on run. And remember that I was controlling S111, the HMI one. So right now it shows me that it's off. And if I go to my actual PLC software and I look at that HMI tag, it's showing me that it's 0. I go back into the HMI and we're running right now. Okay, if I click on this, it should go to the opposite state. And if I go back into my program and I look at HMI float switch 111, it's equal to a 1. So that proves that my HMI controlled that bit within the HMI. Okay, so let's say I wanted to animate something that I place on the screen. So I've got to stop the program to edit the display, and this is the display area, and this might be a good time to save it. So File, Save As, and I'm going to call it Screen 1. Okay, make sure you do save it. Okay, it tells you I'm editing Screen 1. So I'm going to bring over a rectangle, put it onto the page, and I'm going to animate it. So I'm going to cancel this part. And what animation means is that properties of that device on the screen will change depending on the data from the PLC. So for example, I click on it, and right click, and then go to animation. Okay, and I can animate things like whether it's visible or not, change the color, how it's filled, the width, the height, where it sits on the page, lots of things. So this can actually make it move across the screen, change colors, change position, and so on. So I'm just going to animate the color. So click on color. I have to specify which tag the data is coming from for the animation. So that tag is going to come from the float switch 111, the HMI one. So it's simulated. Okay. And what I want to have happen here is when it reads that tag and finds that it's equal to a 0, I want the color to be equal to gray. And you could actually make it blink, but I'm just going to make it gray for now. And when it's equal to a 1, I want it to be equal to show me a value in green, okay, color in green. So once all that's done, I click apply and then close, and I want to test it. Okay, since this switch is also connected to that tag, when I click it, turns it off, causes this box to go gray. If I want to put some text beside it, okay, I just click on here, come over to the text. Oops, I have to give it a certain amount of size. And I can just put S111 there. Okay, and I can actually change this box if I want to make it smaller or larger, but I've actually changed the property of that particular box. Okay, the next step is to create a bar graph, and bar graphs are going to be used for analog information. Okay, so to start with, we have to find where the bar graph is located, and that's right here. And I'm going to place it on the page in this area here. Okay, and I want my back color to be gray. So I'm going to make it gray. And I'm going to use a range that's from 0 to 10. I'm going to change that 0 to 10. This tells me that it's going to fill from starting from the bottom, working its way up. And I can have different thresholds that when it reaches that threshold, it's going to change a color. So maybe when it gets to 80, it'll change the fill color to red. Okay, so when it reaches that threshold, the fill color will change to red. So I'll click apply. Seems seems to be an error here. Maximum value must be greater than threshold value. Okay, yeah, the threshold value should have been 8 and not 80, so I'll fix that. And that's okay. The other thing that we have to do here is tie this to, sorry, I'm trying to think of the word here, to a tag. And I'm going to use the channel 0 HMI tag. So it's not really going to any hardware, it's just a value within the PLC, a variable. And I click OK, and that should be done. Okay, now you have to remember it was tied to channel 0. So if I go to channel 0, and I'm going to go here, channel 0, I'm going to make it 2.3 the value. Okay, great. So if I go to here and I run it, it's representing a level that's 0 at the bottom, 10 at the top, and right now it's at 2.3. Okay, if I change it, let's go back into my program, change this to 7.5, it should change what you see on the other screen. Okay, and go back into, and you see now it's at 7.5. And actually, if I want to display those values, I can click on numeric display, put it beside it, give it enough space, and connect it to that same channel, channel 0. And apply, and OK. Well, let's say I want to have at least one decimal point though. I come into here, 1 decimal point. Now when I run it, so that's 7.5. And let's say this was the scale for the temperature on the Festo station. Well, 7.5 volts would represent 75 degrees. So to be able to do that, stop the display, go into here, you have something called expressions. So I can say that the value that I see on this text is going to be that tag times 10. Okay, and there's a lot of logical, arithmetic, and other things that you can do to this information. But click OK, apply. All right. Okay, so when this is at 7.5 volts, I'm seeing 75 here, representing 75 degrees. All right, the last thing I want to do is create a horizontal slider. And a horizontal slider is something that's going to control one of the tags in my program. And I'm going to use the same channel 0 tag. So to start with, I need to want to create a horizontal slider. So I'm going to start off with just one of these things here. Okay, I'm going to put it over here. And I'm just going to create a rectangle. I'm going to make its back color equal to gray. And what I'm going to do to this thing is to create animation. Okay, animation is where it actually moves or changes color. So in this case, I'm going to get it to act as a horizontal slider to change a value as I move the slider back and forth. So my next step is to click on it, create some animation. So animation, and I want it to be a horizontal slider. So I come down here. Now I have to tell it what tag I'm going to work with. And again, it's going to be channel 0. Okay, and I have to say what the minimum and maximum will be when I slide it back and forth. So 0 is the minimum, 10 the maximum, and then how I'm going to animate it. So I'm going to click these two boxes, and when it's at the minimum, it's going to be at the current position that it's at right now. And when it's at maximum, I'm going to get it to move 150 pixels away from where it's at currently. Okay, or when I move it 150 pixels, it'll go to the 10 volts. So when I click apply and close, okay. So now this is controlling the same tag that this is connected to. So when I move this thing, Notice it's changing. And so that's my 0, it should go to 0. And if I move it all the way to the right, it goes to 100. And we're getting some red there when it goes above 8. Now to make this all a little bit better than it is, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to make this bar a little bit shorter. And I'm going to put a box around it. So to do that, okay. Now I may not have this set correctly, but let's modify it as we go. So I want to make it transparent so I can see the thing that I'm sliding. And I want to make the line width a little bit bigger, maybe even 3. Click apply. Now I have a box that represents the minimum and maximum. So let's test the display. So I'm at 100. So my box is too big. It's not bad on that side, but it's too wide there. So I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. So just grab on the edges. That might be closer. Let me test it. That's not bad. I'm not looking for perfection right now, but it's controlling this bar graph. The other thing that's very useful to do, I'm going to stop this, is put something called a scale. And I click on that, drag it down here, and this is not the right direction. I want these little lines to go upwards. So I think I have to click on up, apply. That's what I want, but I want 11 of these little ticks. So I'm going to go over here, select 11. That's because I want 10 spaces in between. Now if I put this inside the box that I created, okay, I have to resize all of this, but that's okay. Okay, and this is not perfect, but it gives you an idea of how to do this. And then maybe I also want to put the voltage just underneath. So I'll put a numeric indicator. Okay, oops, made a mistake. And we're just about done. And there are a lot of different things that you can do in this, but I want to tie it to channel 0. So when I move the slider, I'll see its current value. I think I didn't make that box big enough for the text that I've used. Okay, and I might want to have a decimal point in there. Okay, let's run and test this. So I move my slider. Takes a second to refresh. It's 5.6. This multiplies it by 10. And you can improve on that slider. But that's basically how this works. So this controls a digital value. This is a horizontal slider with animation. This is a bar graph. This is a numerical indicator. Thanks for viewing this demonstration. I hope this helps for lab number 7 bonus. Thank you. Bye.